Story time about another true vampire encounter in New Orleans. This happened on Fat Tuesday, and the story came from a girl named Ness and her sister Jen. I said I could tag her too, so she's going to be in the caption. It's Fat Tuesday. Ness and Jen are partying, raging, having a great time when they meet this light-skinned black man with these amazing green eyes. That's literally how she described him. She said his eyes were mesmerizing. She said eventually his attention drifted to her sister Jen, even though they were both kind of feeling him. This was an all-day event. They had been drinking all day, partying all day, bar hopping all day. So they're talking to him for a little while, and they decide they're going to change venues. They don't exchange contact information. They don't care, whatever. So they're going bar to bar, and a little while later, they end up at this other bar, and they're standing in line to get in. When all of a sudden they see him again, she said they must have just not noticed him at first, but he was also in line to get in this bar. He's in line behind them. So they turn around, they start talking to him. And when it comes time for them to go in, he gestures for them to go in first. From that point on, they were like hanging out with him. So he was going bar to bar with them. Every time they went to a new bar, he would let them go in first. But before they would go into each bar, he would ask them, like, do you want me to come in too? And she said Jen always answered the same way, which was, yeah, boo, come on in. So the three of them stay out late, like late. And the night is wearing down. All the people are starting to turn in for the night. Ness and her sister are like pretty wasted. So they're like, we're going to go back to our hotel. And he's like, do you want me to walk you back? They're like, okay, we love a gentleman. So they let him walk them back to the hotel. When they get to the hotel, he takes Jen's hand in the middle of the street and starts slow dancing with her. She said they were in like a drunken haze. So it just added this other layer of like a magical evening. And they didn't really think anything of it. But then he leans into her neck and he opens his mouth as if he's about to bite her. His teeth like barely graze her neck. And she jerks back and she's like, I'm sorry. Like, I wasn't looking for anything. I was just having fun. Like, I wasn't looking for anything like that. He's just staring at her. And she said he had this look of defeat on his face. But like there was another expression too, which they didn't know what it was. And maybe it was just the streetlights, but she says she swears his face shifted. And this is such a common theme in all of these stories, I'm realizing. And he says, may I come in? And Ned says that both of them just got a chill. Like they talked about it afterward. A chill ran through both of their bodies. So Jen snaps out of whatever trance she's in and she just says no, very firmly. Literally the moment that the word left her lips, he just turned and started walking down the street. No goodbye, nothing, after they had spent hours and hours together. So they turn to look at each other and they're like, that was weird. And they turn back and he's just gone. They scan the street, don't see any trace of him. Like he just vanished into thin air. So after she sends me the story, I emailed her back and I was like, can I just ask you how you came to the conclusion that he was a vampire, not just like a weirdo? And she was like, because he asked us so specifically if he could come in everywhere we were going. She said most people would have just gone bar to bar, like not needing permission to enter, but his hesitation was very apparent. Like it was a public party. He could have gone anywhere he wanted. He also had very sharp, pointy canine teeth, which she said she's aware that some people have this, but that they thought the coincidence was too weird. And then at the end of the night, instead of going in for a kiss or whatever, if you think you're vibing with this girl, you're just going to try to bite her neck. Oh, another thing, apparently he was wearing an Eagles hoodie, and at some point in the night, they had asked him like where he's from, and he said, I've lived here longer than you can imagine. So I don't know, apparently vampires are Eagles fans. I'm also on day 3 of trolling Netflix, and let me know if you want Fae, Leprechaun, or Duende stories next.
I'm about to tell y'all a story of when I seen my first witch or vampire. I really think it was a vampire that I came encounter with. And yes, before you ask, I am from New Orleans, so this is home of the voodoo. So, I mean, if you don't believe me, then you don't believe me. But I really believe vampires and witches and all that. I believe in all that type of stuff. Let me run it down, right? So, of course, I'm in the French Quarters. Of course, if you don't know what the French Quarters is what Bourbon Street at. I'm on Bourbon. No, I wasn't on Bourbon. I was in the French Quarters, like 2 streets away from Bourbon, right? But I was working for Amazon, delivering packages. So I pull up, me and my partner who I was with, I pull up to this delivery place. Now, I never delivered deep in the French Quarters like this. And if you from New Orleans or you ever been, you go deep into them quarters, it get weird. It is weird on Bourbon Street, but when you go in them quarters, oh, it get weird. Like, it get weird. The whole voodoo stereotype makes sense when you get deep in them quarters like I was. But yeah, I'm deep in the quarters. And then I go to this delivery location and it's weird. Like you had to get buzzed into the apartments, but nothing about the apartments gave bougie or worth being buzzed into. But that's how the French Quarters be though. Cause the living there is very expensive. Like, I'm talking about 4K, 5K, 6K for a trash. Like nothing about it gives updated, but if you in the French Quarter, it's so historic that come with it when you live in the French Quarter. So yeah, we had to get buzzed in. She answered the phone, buzzed us in, gave us the code. We get in there. I find her door, and when she came to the door, I was immediately taken back. Immediate. Because she looked like this lady, y'all, I'm not kidding. She looked like a fairy. Is that the word? Yeah, like she gave fairy, but her energy didn't give fairy. It gave witch or vampire. Anyways, so she opened up the door and she a tiny little lady, like tiny, like small, skinny, old. I'm peeping in the background of the house and it's just like old vintage everything. It didn't smell or nothing like that, but it was old vintage everything. Books are stacked from the ceiling down, right? Okay. I give her the delivery. I think it was like a bed frame or something like that. We give her the package, and I'm staring at her, but the person who I came with gone. Keep in mind, dude never left me all day, but for some reason he left. Like, I turn around, this dude gone. So I'm like, all right. But the reason why I'm standing at the door is because the lady told us, hold on, I want to give y'all a tip. Okay. So she said she about to give us a tip. I'm still staring at this lady turn around, to make her entrance back into her doorway to go get the tip for us. I'm staring at her like this. Okay. Yo, when I tell y'all this lady disappeared, I don't mean disappeared into her house. I mean she did a turn and that hoe was gone. Gone. Like no trace of her. And I'm looking like, did I just see this? Did this lady just disappear? Am I tripping? Of course I thought I was tripping. Because like what other explanation could it be? So I'm waiting by the doorway. He gone. She gone. I think she's in the house. I think I'm tripping, but I started gathering stuff like, okay, I'm tripping. This lady went in her house. She gonna get the tip. I'm standing by the door frame. Never went into her house. One time, like everything in my body was telling me, do not go into her house. We didn't even put the package, the bed frame into her house. We just slid it in there because the vibes was just off, like weird. Anyways, I'm standing at the door frame. 2 minutes go by. 4 minutes go by. 5 minutes go by, 6 minutes go by. Y'all shit y'all not. I stood at that door frame for 10 minutes. This lady never came back and her door stayed open the whole time. She never came back to close her door. So after 10 minutes, I'm like, baby, the tip, you keep the tip. The tip is coming from the Lord. The Lord is telling me to leave now. So what I did was reached in her door, politely grabbed her door, closed that door, and I got on, bro. I got on. That was my first encounter in New Orleans ever seeing a witch.
Okay, what's up, y'all? So I seen a girl make a video about how she was from New Orleans and she ran into a vampire on her, I think it was UPS, or she works in the mailing industry, so she was delivering to what she think was either a vampire or a witch. So I want to tell y'all my experience of New Orleans and like the whole vampire situation, because I know for a fact I ran into a vampire at University Hospital in Louisiana. So January 26th, my boyfriend got shot 9 times in our apartment. That's a story for another day because it's still an open case. So that night they transferred him from Alabama, because we're from Alabama, to Louisiana, the university in Louisiana. So at first it was good, you know what I'm saying? I didn't really have no suspicions or nothing. Like, it was just going good. After he had his surgery, he was straight. And side note, y'all, I was gonna get him to do this with me, but his mouth is wired up. Okay, so I think this was like a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, but I was up there for almost the whole time. Like, I only came home one time to take my baby to the doctor. So when I came back, things started getting a little weird. So it was this nurse. Every night, like, she only came at night. Every night she came, and every time she came in the room, it was like an off feeling. So the whole day, me and my boyfriend was watching on TV. We just chilling. And I had made a joke. I was like, babe, you realize that every channel we turn on, every movie that comes on is about a vampire? Literally the only thing that we kept seeing on TV. So me and him was joking about it, and he was like, yeah, this is the home of the vampires, blah, 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 blah. Well, he wasn't really saying it, but I knew what he was trying to say. So that night, this lady came in the room, the same lady that comes every night. And mind you, my boyfriend, his veins are really hard to find. Like, everybody that came to take his blood, like, would take 2 to 3 tries to get his blood. But every night this lady came, she got it on the first try. So this specific night, this is the day that we was watching vampire movies the whole day. Mind you, that's the only thing that was playing on TV, right? So this specific night, she comes in the room and she has an accent. So she came in, she was like, I came to take your blood. She has like a Jamaican accent, foreigner accent, so so he was like, he said, okay, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I like your accent, where are you from? And so I forgot what she said. She either said Jamaica or Honduras, something like that. And so he was like, okay. He was like, how do you like it from your home country? And she was like, I like it, it's death everywhere. So we kind of look at each other. We're like, okay, like that was a little weird. Oh, boom, she takes the blood. My job, she does this in less than 30 seconds. Like, I kid you not. She stick it in there, got the blood, and was walking out. So my boyfriend, he made a comment. He was like, you get my blood so fast, you must be a vampire. Y'all, I kid you not. This lady turns around, mid-walk out the door. She turns around, looks us in our eyes, like contact, and she says, yeah. Now y'all probably like, nah, she probably just playing, like, nah. But you could tell the feeling, the feeling that filled the room was like, don't F with this girl. Like, don't ask her no more questions, because yeah, something is definitely off. And usually somebody will be like, boy, stop playing, like, I'm not no, you know what I'm saying, I'm not no vampire. Or they'll say something funny back. But she was so serious. Like, she was dead serious, y'all. Like, eye contact, facial expression, and walked straight out the door when she said yes. And I have more spooky story times just about things that I've experienced, because I'm a very spiritual person and I feel spirits when they're around me. And I grew up, you know what I'm saying, seeing ghosts and do all that stuff. So if y'all want some more spooky stories, let me know, because your girl got sick.
Well, I see vampires in New Orleans is trending. And as someone who lived in New Orleans for 12 years and worked on Bourbon Street almost every night of those 12 years, and was around a lot of darkness there, I can tell you, I met a lot of something. Vampires in particular. Anybody who told me they were a vampire, no. Did I meet the devil? Well, if you were around the early days of the House of Blues back in the day, you might know what I'm talking about. And I also met Michael the Archangel. Now, that's a story I've done before. If you want to hear it, let me know. But would it shock me if there was major supernatural and strange things going on? Have you ever been to New Orleans? No, not shocking. But I guess I never got the chance to meet someone who claimed to be a vampire. There's a lot of vampire fans there because of Anne Rice, and a lot of people who dress like vampires to look cool and to feel like they were, mysterious. But let me tell you something. The real people walking around New Orleans, they're a hell of a lot scarier.
So it has now come the time where I need to tell my story about vampires in New Orleans. I've been holding out on this because I didn't want nobody to think I was crazy, and just to not have to deal with the judgment. But now it's time. But when I'm speaking about vampires, I'm not speaking about any person, thing, or entity that looks like this filter that I'm wearing now. That is a big misconception that people have. What's actually happening is it's more of an energy exchange. So these energy vampires, so to speak, they will specifically seek you out. They will watch you, monitor you, learn your likes and dislikes. They will know the places that you frequent. They will know your places of employment. So here's the thing. They actually have a method and a caste system, if you will, of how they decide to choose their next energy source. Basically, the less connected to God's source you are, whatever that God source looks like for you, the easier it is for them to leech your energy. But those people usually have a lower frequency of energy, so that's not usually what they're looking for. The higher your frequency is and the more connected you are spiritually to God's source, the more they want your energy. But it may be more difficult for them to get because most of the time these people have more discernment. When you're operating in a high frequency, they can literally see your light. Okay, here we go. So this is about 2018. I have a skincare salon inside of a voodoo shop. That's another story. Oh, we're starting off crazy already. But anyway, so those of you from New Orleans, y'all know it was inside a New Orleans Healing Center. Okay. So I did skincare, facials, and all that. And I also did Reiki facials. That was something that I offer because I'm also a Reiki master. Now, at the same time, I was still working as a nurse. The reason why I bring up the skincare salon is because it's going to come back around. to when I meet the energy vampire. Okay, so I'm the director of nursing at this addiction treatment center, right? So sometimes I have to meet up with people, you know. So one day this weird looking man is on the floor and I'm like, how the hell he get on the floor? Because you couldn't just walk up on the floor. You had to have a code to get up there. So somebody brings him to me and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to leave, you know, my card and let you know we offer IOP services. That's like outpatient treatment. And just wanted to know if we can set up like a partnership or something in the future and do referrals when you discharge your patients. La da 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 da. I'm like, okay. So he gives me his card and information and leaves. And I'm thinking to myself, that's weird. Like, first of all, we have our own internal IOP program. But okay. So at that time, that job was horrible. I mean, it really sucked. I wanted out of it, like, right away. And then I was still trying to do my little skincare business on the side. So I was like, I need to quit this job. So it finally got to the point where I was able to quit because it was just too much for me. I had a breakdown. So some time goes by and I'm eventually like, okay, I need to find another little job, a little hustle in the meantime. So one day I'm looking, you know, on Indeed or one of those job sites, and I see an ad for a nurse for an addiction treatment center. And I was like, that seemed like something I could do. It's a low key. I don't have to be the director. I could just do my little shift and leave. And then what's interesting, it mentioned in the ad that they offered Reiki. I was like, oh shit, that's right up my alley. Something about the ad just didn't seem right or professional. I was like, I don't think this is a real job. But I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just apply to it anyway and see what happens. Y'all, I turned in my resume and I kid you not, the same day this woman calls me back. And we set up an interview and I think I interviewed like the next day. Y'all, so I Googled the address of the place and I wish I could tell y'all the name of the street, but I can't because it's going to give it away. Louboutin. So it's the day of the interview. I walk into the clinic. There's like soothing music playing. It's, you know, giving spa-like ambiance. There are diffusers with essential oils going. I mean, it's just so nice and serene. And in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, this is me right here. Baby, I'm about to fake it till I make it. I'm about to do good on this interview here. I need to be up in here. So I'm greeted by one of the nurse managers and she's real nice and easygoing, and she sits me in a room and gives me some paperwork to fill out because, you know, I still got to fill out the actual application and all that stuff. And she was like, all right, when you're done filling it out, just go turn in your paperwork to our administrative assistant across the hall over there. And I was like, okay, cool. So I finished my paperwork, get up and bring it to the office. And baby, the lady in the office is a sister. And I'm like, hey girl, me and you, we gonna be cool. Got this. You know, I had got a little excited because I ain't seen none of us yet. But you know, I said, okay, she in here running a little something, so all right, we good. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna take you to come have a seat in the director's office. He's in a just getting out of a meeting, so just have a seat in his office and you'll do your interview shortly. And I'm like, okay, cool. So she walked me to the office and I'm sitting in the office, y'all, and I'm like, what the?
There's a lady on TikTok talking about her encounter with vampires, so I may as well talk about mine. This New Year's Eve, I was driving Lyft and I picked up an order, and it ended up being at like a place that used to be a church, but it wasn't a church anymore, obviously. If you saw the festivities that was going on, there were like people with cloaks and like dark hair and heavy eyeliner, and there was like a red glow from the building coming out. 4 guys got into my car. As soon as they got into the car, I felt a chill. And yes, it was winter, but it was a different kind of chill. I turned around and looked at them, and I immediately knew they were vampires. And it wasn't even just like a thought. It was more so a knowing. Before they got into the car, I was thinking like maybe they were devil worshippers because I had seen like a goat head and like the typical symbols that you see associated with that. But I was like, no, these are vampires. There were 2 brunettes and 2 blondes. They all had blue eyes. Not that that mean anything, but their eyes were almost hypnotically blue. They were so clear. You could see through their, like, not their soul, but I can't even describe it. Their skin was white, but not white like crayon white, but it was very pale. But it was not a pale like, you know, some like white people are like, oh, I'm so pale. Even like red, people with red hair, how pale. It was still a different kind of pale, because even regular people, when they're pale, there's still some warmness to their skin. Like their skin looked cold. I don't know how to describe it, but it was more so the feeling of me knowing. Immediately, I start to panic. My heart is racing. I'm feeling like, is it too late to reject the call? Like, can I even ask them to leave the vehicle? And then I started thinking, okay, if I am panicking and my blood pressure is rising, then I'm like pushing more blood through my veins, which may mean that I may seem more appetizing to them. This is all stuff that's going through my mind. The man behind me, the blonde who was like in the middle, touches my shoulder, and immediately it's like somebody poured warm honey over me. Like, that is the calm just spreading down my body. It was like immediately I felt relaxed, almost like I was in a trance, kind of there, but like watching myself. I can't even really describe it. And I knew at that moment that I wasn't necessarily in danger. So then the guy is like, well, our car is only a few blocks away, which I could tell from looking at the app. And he's like, but before we get there, we need you to answer a question, and you have to think very carefully about this. So now I'm like, okay, this answer is going to determine if I go home to my children or not. And it could just be my imagination and like me jumping the gun, and he could have been joking, but it didn't feel jokey. So he's like, okay, well, we have 2 separate cars. How would you group us together? Who should ride with who? What? So I'm like, I look back at them, and they're smiling and they're kind of giggling. Now, their teeth don't look like regular teeth, but they don't look like the typical vampire teeth either. But they definitely did not look like human teeth. Their canines were a little bit more pronounced, but not in a dramatic, fake way. I can't even freaking describe it. And actually, if I had to describe them, to sketch them out right now, I couldn't even, because it's like they're a memory, but not like a typical memory, like a memory behind a memory. I can't describe it. But anyways, I knew it. I'm like, you're vampires. Yes. I heard the answer in my head. No, I'm looking at them through because I'm like, if they lunge for the jugular, I'ma crash us all. But I grouped the opposite hair colors together. And the guy said, well, why did you do that? I said, I don't know, it just felt right. He said, excellent choice. He took out his phone and he's like, I'm gonna start my car now. And I'm like, you could start your car from my car? And he's like, yeah, but we like you. You'll get home safe. Good. Like, you'll get home safe tonight. Have a good night. And I was like, yeah, I was kind of thinking that, you know, doing Lyft on New Year's Eve could be dangerous, because like, who knows what kind. I was trying to make it seem like I didn't think they were the danger, but just let them know, like, in case they heard me panicking. Oh, fucking went and saw the vampire. But anyways, they got out and they gave me my biggest tip of the night. You would think that would have been my last ride for the night, but no, I kept going. I made it home, and I didn't tell any other person about this story because, like, are you supposed to share vampire stories? I don't know. However, I just did. So just know that there are other beings in this world besides us, and maybe they're not all so dangerous.
So I'm sitting down in the office waiting for my interview, and a little small radar start going up, just a little bit, and I'm looking around at all the shit he got in his office. So I'm seeing shaman sticks, a big tall wall shelf with about 10 shelves with all kind of shit on there. They got old looking books that look like spell books and stuff. Very eclectic and, I don't know, eccentric looking things everywhere. I can't really replicate what I'm talking about, but it's kind of giving sort of like this, but like a little more dark. And this, and all these shaman sticks. I know what y'all thinking. I should have got my ass up out of there right then and there. So I had to rationalize what was happening. I was like, oh, it's just nothing. Maybe he's just, he's just a little weird. Because I kind of think of myself as a little weird too. So, maybe you're just into some kind of different stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to get a job, baby. So I'm still looking around this office, looking at all this occult stuff, and nervously waiting, and then the door opens. Y'all, guess who it was? It was the same man that came up on the hospital unit where I used to work and left his card with me about the IOP program. He didn't mention it, and I never mentioned it, but I knew that he knew who I was, and of course I remembered who he was, but he never mentioned it. So I'm like, okay, he gonna act like he don't know me. Okay, let me just do this little interview. So that made like another little radar kind of go up a little bit, but I'm still like, all right, it ain't nothing. So we're not doing like regular interview questions. We're kind of like talking like we're friends or know each other, like we're getting to know each other or something. And so some kind of way we get to talking about my skincare business in my shop. No, let me back up. I'm lying. He was talking about some of the programs they have there and the social worker. And then he started talking about the social worker and saying, oh yeah, for some reason he shows me a picture of the social worker in his phone. And y'all, all I could look at was the picture she was standing in front of. The social worker was standing in front of a drawing, a painting that was directly in front of my shop. I was like, hold on. Because I hadn't told him about my shop yet. That's what I had wanted to mention. I hadn't told him anything. So when I saw that, y'all don't understand. Okay, so y'all understand. This is where my shop was, inside the New Orleans Healing Center. But anyway, this is the picture. So it's an artist's rendition of the goddess Kalima, the god Kalima. So this is literally when you walk out my door, this is what you see. And this one is right next to it. So it's like, that was crazy. Because there's a long hall to get to my shop and there was nothing else there. So it was like, why was she even standing in front of it? I guess she wanted a picture in front of it. But in order to walk up to that picture, you had to be like going to some place down that hall, which the only place was my shop. So that's a quick picture of the inside of my shop. And this is me sitting underneath the pyramid. I had gotten really into Reiki and had even gotten certified. But I felt like he pointed that picture out to me because he wanted me to know that, look, we are where you are. I want you to know that we see you. That's what I felt like. My gut feeling was telling me that. That's when the radars really started going off and I started to feel a little uncomfortable. So as the interview is continuing, I'm saying in my mind, okay, I'm just tripping, like you just need this job. Just stop tripping. Like I'm not afraid of too many things. I done been around all kind of people who are into other things that I'm not into. And it don't bother me, because I'm secure in myself, So I'm like, that was just a coincidence. I'm tripping. So he then goes on to introduce me to a few people. He had like a counselor come in. I think he introduced me to a psychiatrist. I went on a quick tour of the clinic. And then they were like, oh, we're getting ready to have a Reiki session. And I was like, oh, okay, this is up my alley. Okay, this is going to lighten things up a little bit. They were like, I know you're done with the interview, but would you like to see, how we do a Reiki session here? And I was like, sure, yeah. Y'all ain't gonna believe what happened next.
You believe in vampires?
Yes.
Let's talk about vampires, because what the
There's been a TikTok.
Katie and Dana, I'm so happy that you guys are talking about real vampires. I have tea. I'm going to tell you about how I met real vampires and also about a crazy story where I was being fed on. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm a paranormal investigator. I also do a lot of research regarding the paranormal and folklore and cryptids. And about a year ago, I posted a video about my research on real vampires. The video wound up going viral and real vampires wound up watching my video and reaching out to me. Because of this video about real vampires and me meeting real vampires, I also wound up meeting Ben Alenkush, the owner of a paranormal production company, New Blood Universe, who I now work with. New Blood Universe has has a docuseries coming out about real vampires, so make sure you're following their socials if you're interested. New Blood Universe is also producing a show that me and my best friend Danelle are doing called The Curious Crypt. It's a paranormal investigation show. For the show, in March 2024, Danelle and I packed our bags and headed to New Orleans to do some investigations. While we were there, we wound up going into a vampire bar. Had to get a password to go in there. It was very secretive. Go to New Blood Universe to see the full story on it because we just posted it there.
We see this like candelabra, and this man looked like a vampire.
He looked like a straight up vampire.
We know we're gonna meet with a specific vampire who is considered an elder. I right off the bat did not like him. Like I had a weird feeling about him.
And I just didn't care, to be honest. I met him, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get drinks. So I was inside while you had this whole conversation with him where he fed on people who were right in the street in front of you.
Yes, they would start to like almost look like disoriented.
But basically, I wound up meeting a blue-haired Colin Robinson. I don't know if you've seen What We Do in the Shadows, but Colin Robinson is an energy vampire, and I met him, and he comes in a form of a female who literally sucked the life out of me. In my defense, I was like, this girl has blue hair, she's part of a LARPing group, and I'm a nerd. She's probably going to be really cool to talk to. So Danelle and I go to talk to her, and let me tell you, out of all of the things that we could talk about, she talks about the public policy of her LARPing group. I don't even know how long she talked for, but I felt like every ounce of my life was drained from me. I was so bored I could have slept for 10 years. Not only have I spoken with real vampires in length to get all of the information I could, but I'm also really good friends with a lot of real vampires. I promise you, they're not all bad. Just like humans in general, humans can be good, humans can be bad, we can be morally gray, we can be somewhere in between, and that's pretty much where anything with will and forethought and all of those things land. They can be good, bad, somewhere in between. If you are into the supernatural, folklore, cryptids, the paranormal, and real vampires, and the fae, gotta mention them because I love them, make sure you're following me. Make sure you're following New Blood Universe because things are about to get weird.
So one of the workers takes me to the Reiki room. It's like a therapy room, right? So it's really calm and serene and spa-like. The lights are dim. There's a massage Reiki table with pillows and pretty throws. So I'm like, okay, this may not be so bad. So in the room, it's me, the director, the lady I talked to initially on the phone. It was the psychiatrist, a counselor, and it might have been a nurse in there too. So I'm looking around and I'm waiting for them to bring the patient in the room, and I'm like, I don't see no patient. Who had a patient? So they was like, oh no, why don't you try it yourself so you can see how we do it here. Now in the back of my mind, I'm saying, man, I need this job, right? But I'm also like, I don't know these people. But it was like, I was in a room full of people, and it was like, I don't know, they had me they put me on the spot, you know? So it's like, I kind of was hesitant, but I let them do it. That was that discernment I had kind of trying to come through, but I was suppressing it. I was like, I'm tripping. They just gonna do a little Reiki. I do Reiki, you know. I just kept trying to rationalize everything, knowing in my gut, I was like, something ain't right with these people. So here we go. I'm on a table, y'all. I'm on the bucket table with all these strange people standing around me. I'm laying down and they're standing around me. So the lights are really low. They have like this, I don't know, this drum tribal music kind of playing in the back. And the lady who I spoke to on the phone, she's at the head of the table. And she has this like feather thing in her hand. It's like I don't know, it's a feather. And she like flapping the feather. So my eyes supposed to be closed, right? But I'm kind of like peeping every now and then. So my eyes are closed, but like I'm peeping on the slit. And then I'm like listening. I'm like, what the fuck? They making all these weird noises and sounds. I'm like, hold on, Reiki don't go like this. So I'm peeping. I'm looking at the psychiatrist, the doctor. He all into it with his hand stretched out. I'm like, okay. And then the director started making these crazy ass clucking noises like a chicken. I promise you, I can't make this shit up. It sounded like he was sneezing or I don't know what the hell he was doing, but in my mind, I was just looking at them and laughing at them like, really? they really think they doing something, like they have no idea, like they're not doing anything. But I gather they was trying to invoke something, but something wasn't connecting. So I'm still peeping at what they doing. He like, ooh, hooga, 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 doing all this shit. I can't tell you how long this went on for. I don't remember. Maybe like 20 to 30 minutes. I can't remember. Mind you, all this was on the same day of the interview. I hadn't even gotten a job offer yet. So in retrospect, when I think about this, you know, today, they were trying to harness my energy, but something wasn't connecting right. I feel like maybe I was spiritually protected. You know, usually I have a way of discerning stuff, but I don't know. I wasn't in my normal state of mind because I had just left that job and it had drained me. And it was just a lot I had been going through. So I was vulnerable at that time. And I don't know. And I feel like it was not a coincidence that that same man had come up to my job and left me his car, and the social worker that worked at that same facility was standing right in front of my shop. That was just crazy to me. So that goes to show, you know, I think there are energy vampires out there that prey on people who are vulnerable. So just be careful out there. But I really should have known better. I really should have. I just don't know what I was thinking. I think that was around 2018. And I have not worked like, you know, a regular full-time job as a nurse in person since that time. I've been working remote from home since I left that place. Because I prayed to never have to go back and work in those conditions again and be around those kind of people. So I kind of isolated to myself, and I've been working from home. I remember when COVID first hit, it wasn't too much of a transition for me because I was already working at home. I think that was my way of trying to protect myself. I don't know, but I like it. I ain't never going back. Not until I finish medical school, and then of course I'll go back, you know, to the hospital, but I'm not going back. And I ain't never did Reiki again either. Nothing against Reiki. I love it. It's wonderful. But that is one of the things that they try to use to get your energy. So, you know, if you're doing it, just be careful. But it's not to say Reiki is bad. I want to make that clear.
Hello, TikTok. Fagger Freestyle here with another story time about the time I met a vampire. I tried to do this story the other day on live and it just did not work out. But anyway, I just decided to record a video. People have been asking me about the story, so here it goes. I'm a rideshare driver in New Orleans. So of course I encounter all types of people from all walks of life. This one particular ride was very interesting. Now, this was a couple of years ago when this occurred. And I'm going to tell you, for the most part, I remember what she said. I do not remember what she looked like. And there are some details that when the experience was over, like I had completely forgotten some things. But anyway, so I'm riding, pick up this passenger, and I remember our conversation. And the craziest thing is I can remember her voice. I can, and even as I'm telling you this, I can hear her voice in my head. And I can even picture like this part of her face around her mouth, her lips. I can see them moving as she's talking to me. And I remember her hand being on my shoulder. And I remember what it felt like when she touched me. But a lot of other stuff, it's like was just completely erased. So I pick her up And I do know that we were having conversation. I talked to many of my passengers, and she is telling me I have really great energy. So I told her thank you. She asked me some things about myself, nothing too private, nothing with too many details. So, I just kind of gave her some general info. And I remember her telling me that she wasn't from here. That I do remember. And then she proceeds to tell me how much she loved New Orleans, how much she loved being there, living there, etc., etc. I do recall asking her where she was from originally, and all she told me was that she was from very far away. And it's funny again because I'm hearing her voice in my head as if this is weird. And I've never shared this story with anybody, so TikTok, you're getting it first. She touched my shoulder at one point, and this is where things got really strange. She touched my shoulder, and I felt like I just froze. And even as I'm talking to you right now, I can distinctly remember that feeling of feeling frozen. And my hands were on the wheel because I could see my hands on the wheel. The car wasn't moving. And being frozen in that moment, I hear her voice, but not like I'm here talking to you. In my head, I hear her voice telling me, don't be scared, that she's not going to harm me. And then after that, we're moving again. And I remember kind of turning and looking like that. And she was sitting back in the seat and her hands were on her lap. And I said, what did you do to me? And she just smiled. And she says, I just leached some of your energy. And I said, what? She said, I just leached some of your energy. She said, this is going to sound crazy, but I can assure you it's true. I'm a vampire. She said, but I'm not the type of vampire that you've been taught about in books and movies. She said, those types of vampires exist, but they're very rare these days. I'm a vampire that feeds off of energy. And all I have to do is touch you to get it. She said New Orleans is a great place for her and her kind to exist. And that there are quite a few members of their tribe, is what she called them. I think I remember this part of our conversation so significantly because I believe when she touched me, she implanted something in my mind, whether you want to call it a memory or a thought or an idea. But she gave me something of herself, probably, to where I can recall this portion of the interaction between us. maybe she knew that eventually I would share the story with others and therefore maybe make it a little bit more acceptable for them to start, for her and her members to start presenting themselves. I don't know. I don't know why she even chose me for this. But she told me that there are vampires that survive off of good energy. There are vampires that survive off of bad energy. There are vampires that survive off of sexual energy. And there are vampires that survive off of blood. And New Orleans is the only place in the world where you can find members of all 4 of those vampire tribes. Maybe she wanted me to remember this portion of it as a warning. I don't know. But I know she wasn't lying just because of how I felt. And even now, it's crazy because I still feel like her hand is on my shoulder, which makes me wonder, when she touched me, did she create some type of psychic connection between the two of us? I don't know, but I think I need to end this. Anyway, I don't remember where I dropped her off at. I don't even remember dropping her off. The next thing I remember doing clearly was being in a part of town that I didn't remember how I even got there. And it was like 2 hours later. And I was just in a parking lot. Just in a parking lot. And I know it sounds weird, y'all. I think I probably shouldn't even recorded this. I probably shouldn't even be talking. I probably should not even be talking about this. I shouldn't.